Hi, everyone, and welcome to Battleground MTG. This is where we come together and talk about the real issues that are facing everyday Americans and why it's important that we work as hard as possible to save this country. We've just concluded Impeachment Week. This has been a big week this week on the Hill, and I have introduced articles of impeachment on 5 people within the federal government. And today I want to talk to you about why impeachment is so important. Impeachment should be rare and it should be extraordinary, but we are living in extraordinary times. These are times that we never expected to see. We never thought we would see a national debt with over $31 trillion. We never thought we would see a time where our border is completely out of control and in the hands of Mexican cartels with human trafficking and drug trafficking. But even more terrifying, we never thought we would see a time where our government has been weaponized against its political enemies and targets conservative Americans every single day. These are extraordinary times, and that's why impeachment is the tool that must be used in order to save America. You see, in the private sector, everyday people like you, there is something that happens. People get fired, they get laid off. You see large corporations announcing layoffs. You see people getting fired for committing crimes within their jobs. And this is an important way to save a company. Impeachment is the same tool given to Congress in order to save our government and therefore save our country. And that's why I felt it was important and absolutely necessary to introduce articles of impeachment. Now I'm going to walk through them, and we're going to be talking about 3 people that I introduced articles of impeachment for the weaponization of government, and they are guilty for high crimes and misdemeanors and must be impeached. The first one I introduced was on a U.S. attorney you may not have heard of, but his name is Matthew Graves. This U.S. attorney working at the Department of Justice right here in Washington, D.C., has the very important, unique position that he can prosecute not only local cases in the District of Columbia, crimes, but he can also prosecute federal crimes. He wields his office in only one direction. He treats it like a 2-tiered justice system where he's weaponized his office against people for one single day in history, January 6, 2021. He continues to prosecute people that walked in the Capitol and thought they were there raising their voice for election integrity. Now, there are people that have been charged and prosecuted and have served time for attacking police officers, and that is the right thing to do. It's wrong to attack police officers, and they should have been prosecuted. They should have been charged. Anyone that committed all kinds of property damage at the Capitol, that was wrong. But Matthew Graves has not only arrested and prosecuted 1,000 people, he's announced that he will be arresting and prosecuting over 1,000 more people for January 6th. Now, let me tell you why he should be impeached. Here in Washington, D.C., he has abused his position by not prosecuting 67% of the arrests made by Metro D.C. police. This is a crime against the very people that live here and work here in Washington, D.C. I want to go ahead and show you this clip that happened earlier this week when we had Matthew Graves before us in the Oversight Committee. The time for weaponizing the Department of Justice needs to come to an end. And because you refuse to prosecute real criminals that are violating all the crimes here in Washington, D.C., and you want to talk about D.C. residents, they are victims of your abuse of power. And because of that, I am introducing articles of impeachment on you, Mr. Graves, and I yield back the remainder of my time. This is a very important, necessary thing that must be done. We have to hold power at bay. There has to be a system of checks and balances, and Matthew Graves must be impeached, not only for the safety of the people that visit our nation's capital, that live and work here in Washington, D.C., even young children, such as the 12-year-old girl that was shot while she was sleeping in her own bed here in Washington, D.C., by a criminal raging in the streets with a gun. Matthew Graves should be prosecuting those crimes, not the grandmothers that walked through the Capitol on January 6th, almost 2.5 years ago. Now, the next articles of impeachment I want to talk to you about, I introduced, are against the FBI director, Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray has abused his position of power at the FBI in unspeakable ways. He has weaponized this agency to go against conservative Americans. These are Americans like pro-life protesters simply praying at abortion clinics. These are conservative Americans like parents holding their school boards accountable. These are Catholics. The FBI has been placing agents within the Catholic Church. These are all kinds of conservative Americans, but yet the FBI director has not targeted real criminals on the left. And he is also waging war against half of America by politicizing the Federal Bureau of Investigations and using it as a political weapon against Trump supporters and against President Trump himself with the unconstitutional raid of Mar-a-Lago. Not only was it an unconstitutional raid of former President Trump's home, but President Trump is also the declared Republican primary candidate for the 2024 presidential election. We can see very clearly that Christopher Wray is using his position as FBI director to go after the top candidate that is clearly winning the Republican presidential primary, all in an effort to smear his good name and to try to change the election outcome of 2024. But what is even more terrifying is not only the way Christopher Wray has conducted himself within the FBI towards Americans, it's also the way that he has weaponized his agency against FBI agents themselves. Take a listen to this very important FBI whistleblower in his testimony just yesterday at the weaponization of government right here in Congress.
And Mr. O'Boyle, we just heard from your interaction with Mr. Gates and how all of this occurred and all of the hardships you've gone through. If one of your really good friends, your former colleagues, came to you and said, I have this thing that is being covered up, and I think the American people need to know about it, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them first to pray about it, long and hard. And I would tell them I could take it to Congress for them, or I could put them in touch with Congress, but I would advise them not to do it.
So you would legitimately try to protect one of your colleagues from doing what you have done?
Absolutely.
And how do you think that solves being able to shine light on corruption, weaponization, any kind of misconduct that exists with the American people?
It doesn't solve it. But the FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. And we are all examples of that.
I can't think of a more sobering way to end a hearing. I yield back.
You just heard the brave testimony of FBI agent Garrett O'Boyle. This is a brave man that is coming forward to Congress and is supposed to receive the protection of being a whistleblower. But instead, Christopher Wray has weaponized his agency to turn against this whistleblower that is simply trying to tell the truth of the abuse of power that is happening within the FBI under the direction of Christopher Wray. This is a terrifying time in America. The next article of impeachment that I want to talk to you about, I introduced this week against the Attorney General of the United States of the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland has weaponized the Department of Justice against conservative Americans. He has turned the Department of Justice into a police force under the guidance of his boss, Joe Biden. The Department of Justice is no longer the Department of Justice. It's become the Department of Injustice. And now, under Merrick Garland's direction and leadership as the Attorney General for the United States, he has targeted Trump supporters, people that were there on January 6th using their First Amendment rights. I'm not talking about people that actually broke the law. I'm talking about people that were just there. He's used the Department of Justice to go against Catholics. They have been placing agents within Latin Mass in Catholic churches. Merrick Garland has also been going after parents simply trying to hold their school boards accountable for the education that their own children are receiving. Now remember, parents are the taxpayers, and parents are the ones that are paying for the schools, and it's their children that are in school there. Not only that, Merrick Garland has also targeted President Trump and has weaponized the Department of Justice against the top Republican primary presidential candidate for 2024. Remember, the Mar-a-Lago raid was unconstitutional and wrong. But what is severe about this entire situation is he is the Attorney General of the United States. Merrick Garland has the unique position to be investigating, charging, and prosecuting Hunter Biden, because the Hunter Biden laptop is real. The 51 members of the intelligence community lied to America. They signed their name to a lie, and we now know that that is a fact. Merrick Garland is ignoring all of the crimes from Hunter Biden, not only Hunter Biden, but the entire Biden family and Joe Biden himself. I sit on the Oversight Committee, and we are conducting a very important investigation. We have read the financial reports inside the Treasury. These reports have outlaid unbelievable allegations of all types of money laundering, money coming in from foreign countries such as China, Ukraine, other former Soviet Union countries, countries in Africa, the Middle East, countries from all over the world. We're wire transferring money into LLCs that look like fake LLCs. And then the money that was transferred in there was paid out to multiple Biden family members. This should never happen with any elected official in the United States, and it should never happen with any type of officer within our federal government. But this has been known about for years, and Merrick Garland ignores these crimes. He does not investigate them. He does not prosecute them. And he has done nothing about the Biden family crimes, all the while weaponizing the Department of Justice against President Trump and anyone that would dare support him. This is why I introduced articles of impeachment against Merrick Garland. But here's the clip I want you to see. This is the one that I find most disturbing. It's how the Department of Justice has treated parents. I want you to imagine if your daughter was raped at school. How would you feel about that? And how would you feel about the people responsible for her safety? Watch this clip here of this Virginia father, Scott Smith, who went to his school board and tried to hold them accountable, wanted to ask them questions about his precious teenage daughter that was raped at school, and the Department of Justice came after him. Let's hear what Mr. Smith had to say.
Being put against about over the DOJ thing too? Regular folks. That's scary. That's really scary, that our government is going to weaponize themselves against parents, and they're using my video across the nation to spread fear. That's wrong. I'm not a bully. I'm not a racist. I love everyone.
Mr. Smith himself told the truth. He said it's scary when the government is weaponized against you, and he knows exactly how that feels. What we're trying to investigate and what needs to be exposed, and this is why impeachment is important, is we have FBI whistleblowers saying that the FBI statistics, they have inflated the numbers that are saying that right-wing extremists are the ones that are the danger to this country. Well, I would argue if we can go through the process of impeachment and there were a trial in the Senate for these articles of impeachment, America would find out the truth that it is not right-wing extremism that's the most dangerous thing in America. It's actually the weaponized government that has been going after half of this country. Stay with me now, and we'll come right back, and I'll tell you about the other two people that I introduced articles of impeachment on.
We want to thank our good friends over at MyPillow.com, the great Mike Lindell. What a patriot he has been for the Republican Party. And right now, he's got specials just in time for Memorial Day. Save up to 80% on selective products, those mattress toppers, those slippers, the MyPillow 2.0. It's all there on sale. And guess what? When you use the promo code BATTLE, you'll save some green. Go check it out, mypillow.com, promo code BATTLE.
Listen. I just heard the cartel guy talking to him. They're coming across the river right now. More Africa. Huge group. Huge group. Huge group coming your way. Huge group. Running to the front. They've done this on. Where are you from? Africa? Senegal? They've done this on. Peru? Senegal? Dominicana? Dominicana? They've done this on. They've done this on. Where are you from?
I found out a few minutes later, all the ones that didn't reply were from Egypt.
Peru?
First time I've seen that. Over 30 in this group alone.
They done this on? Iran? You speak English? No. Iran, guys. Just found that Quran. And we ran into Iran. And this is just the second group. Colombia? Huh? Colombia? Colombia? Egypt. Wow, long journey. You speak English? No English. No English? Egypt. Egypt? Well, these guys are from Egypt. We had most of them over there. About half are from Mauritania and Senegal. No English though, huh? No English. Guys, so we're down here in Yuma. We made the trip from the Gulf of Mexico. We're ending up on the Pacific. Secretary Mayorkas said after Title 42 ended, our border is secure, and he said that illegal entry is not going to be allowed. So I guess this is the definition, the new definition of legal, is to come in illegally and get the cartel Uber, aka Border Patrol, to take you into America. People from all over the world. Half this line behind me is from Egypt. It's the first time I've seen that. You've got Senegal, you've got Mauritania, and then all the other Central American, South American countries. But it's the death of our country if this continues.
Welcome back to Battleground MTG. And the video that you just watched from Ben Bergquam is shocking. As a matter of fact, it's almost unbelievable. But what you saw in this video that thankfully Ben Bergquam captured and showed to America is exactly what is happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at our southern border. That wasn't El Paso, Texas. That was Yuma, Arizona. Our border is wide open under the leadership and under the direction of our President Joe Biden and our Secretary of Homeland, Alejandro Mayorkas. And that is why the next two people I'm going to tell you about, I introduced articles of impeachment because they have endangered all of America. Our true national security is a crisis. I introduced articles of impeachment on Alejandro Mayorkas and President Joe Biden this week in order to save America. Both of these men swore an oath of office, especially Joe Biden, swore an oath of office. And that under that oath of office, part of their jobs, as a matter of fact, a very important part of their job is to protect the borders of all 50 states in America. But with this border crisis and this unbelievable invasion, you saw in the video right there, these are not people coming from Mexico or coming from other Hispanic or Latin countries. These are people coming from all over the world, over 170 countries, Egypt, Senegal, Iran, all over the country. They are coming to America because they know that Joe Biden has opened the border and taken away President Trump's very strong border security measures and policies. Joe Biden ripped those down by executive order as soon as he became president of the United States. So I want to walk you through the reason why I introduced articles of impeachment against Mayorkas and Biden, and the reason why the American people, I need your help. I need your help to build support within my conference, because impeachment is not only necessary, it is urgent and needed for the safety of every single American. Let me walk you through some things about Alejandro Mayorkas. He's aided and abetted the complete invasion of our country by deliberately flooding our nation with drugs, terrorists, and illegals. He lied to the American people. He lied under oath, and he has blatantly violated his oath of office. He stated under oath that we have operational control of our borders, while also under oath, he stated that no one has ever achieved operational control of the border. Let me tell you, that is a lie. The Border Patrol chief told us at a Homeland Committee hearing when we went to Texas that 5 out of the 9 border sectors are completely out of control. As a matter of fact, do you know who is controlling those areas? It's the Mexican cartels. These dangerous criminals are controlling our border with human trafficking and drug trafficking like we've never seen in our history. Under Alejandro Mayorkas' watch, he's allowed approximately 6 million illegal border encounters, a record amount of fentanyl seized at the border, totaling approximately 40,000 pounds. More than 193 people on terrorist watch lists were caught while attempting to cross the border at ports of entry. But the problem is we don't know how many they haven't caught. We don't know how many terrorists have actually come in the country. We have approximately 1.5 million known gotaways who have evaded U.S. authorities, and approximately 1,424 deaths of illegal migrants at the southern border. 853 dead illegals, the most ever in a 12-month period, died trying to cross the southern border in 2022. This is coming from the administration that claims they care about migrants. Their policies are murdering migrants. And then, not only the southern border, approximately there's been an 870% increase in border encounters in one sector alone at our northern border. America's not safe at the southern border or the northern border. During Mayorkas' reign, the annual number, this is so tragic, of unaccompanied alien children referred to HHS custody after crossing illegally has more than tripled over the past 2 years. There have been more than 348,812 unaccompanied illegal children encountered at the southern border, with at least 85,000 of these children have gone missing in the United States. Under Alejandro Mayorkas' reign, under President Joe Biden, 85,000 children are missing. Where are these children? In a recent story in the New York Times, it was exposed that many of these children are forced into slavery in labor camps here in the United States. This is sickening and even hard to comprehend. This is why both of these men must be impeached. I'd like to walk you through some issues and talk about the reasons for impeachment with President Biden. Biden has deliberately compromised our national security by refusing to enforce immigration laws and secure our southern border. That's his job as President of the United States. He's allowed approximately 6 million illegals from over 170 countries to invade our country, the United States of America. He's deprived Border Patrol of the necessary resources and policies sufficient to protect our country. His administration has willfully refused to maintain operational control of the border that is required by our Constitution. It is required by our law. This has nothing to do with politics or political parties. This has everything to do with the President of the United States is literally breaking the laws of the United States. He refuses to do anything. President Biden canceled our border wall construction contracts, which were securing our nation's border. His Department of Justice then sued Arizona when the state constructed its own border wall using shipping containers. And you just watched a video of the consequences, where people from all over the world, just caught in a few minutes on video, were invading Yuma, Arizona. Can you imagine? There's another reason to impeach Merrick Garland. As the Attorney General of the United States, the Department of Justice, under the direction of President Biden, actually sues Arizona when they are trying to defend their own border because of the failures of President Biden and his administration to secure the border for the people of Arizona and the people of the United States. You can't even make this up. The failure is immense, and it's also purposeful. He must be impeached. He's caused an approximate 1,700 increase in border encounters in just one sector of the northern border. Under Joe Biden's reign, there's been approximately 1.5 million known gotaways. Here's something that's devastating, though. He's allowed fentanyl, the number one killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45, to overwhelmingly flood into the country and kill around 300 Americans every single day. Look, I represent a wonderful district in Northwest Georgia, Georgia's 14th district. It is beautiful. It's nestled in the mountains in Northwest Georgia. These are small towns, these are communities, and there's many wonderful families there. And tragically, my district, which is far away from the southern border, and it's also far away from the northern border, we have fentanyl deaths on a nearly daily basis in my district. And this is devastating. Fentanyl is such a dangerous drug. It's a poison coming in from China, being sent to China, and the Mexican cartels are lacing it into drugs and smuggling it into the United States. Fentanyl makes its way all the way to my district all the time, and people overdose and they get poisoned and murdered by fentanyl. If we are holding anyone accountable, it shouldn't be the war in Ukraine. It should be the Mexican cartels who are responsible for murdering Americans. This must end. And this is why President Biden and Alejandro must be impeached. Furthermore, I think there's something that everyone should consider. We really should consider what are the consequences and what will happen to our country in years to come. President Biden isn't finished with his presidency unless we impeach him. As a matter of fact, he'll be there all the way until 2025. Now I'll tell you my hopes. My greatest hopes are that we reelect President Donald J. Trump and bring him back to the White House so that once again we can secure the southern border. We can also make America great again. And believe me, that's not anything to be afraid of. That's everything to want. The Democrats lie to you all the time. As a matter of fact, their lies are consistent. And we're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, I'll be exposing one of the Democrats who has lied a lot and other Democrats that are backing him up. We'll be right back.
We want to thank our good friends over at MyPillow.com, the great Mike Lindell. What a patriot he has been for the Republican Party. And right now, he's got specials just in time for Memorial Day. Save up to 80% on selective products. Those mattress toppers, those slippers, the MyPillow 2.0, it's all there on sale. And guess what? When you use the promo code BATTLE, you'll save some green. Go check it out, MyPillow.com, promo code BATTLE.
Welcome back to Battleground MTG, and joining me for this last block of the show is someone that you might know. This is Brian Glenn from Right Side. You've seen him on the internet, you've seen him on Twitter, but you've also seen him famously at every single Trump rally in America. And so, Brian, thanks for coming on with me.
Well, thanks for having me. I actually feel like I'm dressed for a Trump rally. Actually, this is that standard suit. I want to get into this last block that you have, and I'm really interested in talking about this, but I've got some facts here. Okay. Because you just spent the last 32 minutes breaking down the reasons to impeach Mayorkas and Graves and everybody. But here's what Rasmussen has some latest developments out. 71% of Republicans want Biden impeached. Now, I'd like to have a conversation with the other percentage that doesn't think he should be impeached, but that's a different conversation. So you got 71% of Republicans. Now you have 53% of all voters believe Biden is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. That's a huge stat there. I mean, that's more than half, a little bit more than half of the voters feel like Biden should be prosecuted. He is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. But lastly, this is really interesting as well. 35% of Democrats think Biden should be impeached. I'm impressed by that. That's higher than I thought it would be. Now, granted, when you take politics aside, you look at the actual facts on President Biden and in the Biden empire, then anyone would agree. I think that would be a lot higher, but props to the 35% of you Democrats who actually feel like that. And then lastly, this is key too, because 45% of independents feel like Biden should be impeached. Now, when we look at the 2024 election and who are the voters that we need to swing towards a Republican side, it is the independents. And right now, 45% of those polled, according to Rasmussen, want him impeached.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really not surprised. So I was talking with Steve Bannon just the other day about this, and my prediction about Republicans that want Biden impeached, I said 75%. So I'm really impressed that I was that close. 35% of Democrats that want Biden impeached is damning. But that 45%, you're right, that 45% right there of independents is going to swing the election very hard for President Trump, which makes me very excited. It makes you excited. Brian, now I feel like you're an expert on Republican voters. You interview more Republican voters than probably anyone in the country because of all the great and wonderful Trump rallies that you go to. What is your prediction going into the Republican primary?
I think as we move forward and people obviously have seen, President Trump's poll numbers just keep going up. It seems like every time he throw some type of accusation his way or every time he goes to court, his numbers go up. I think those numbers continue to go up. So it really doesn't matter who else gets in the race, to be honest with you. You can't catch up to him. So that puts him in the general election. Now, what happens then? Well, there's several things can play out there. One is that 45% of the independents that think Joe Biden should be impeached. So if they don't replace Joe Biden with someone they think that would do a great job with this country, that 45%, in my opinion, goes over to President Trump, the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party. There's your difference right there. So I'm actually surprised, Marjorie, that only 71% of Republicans think that Joe Biden should be impeached. Do we have that many rhinos here in D.C.?
Oh, we've got plenty of them in Washington, D.C. We don't have that many in the rest of the country because most of these Republican voters are wonderful people.
They are.
And we know them all. You know what's shocking to me, though, is think about this. Democrats do polling as well. They do a lot of polling, and they're smart to do that. What surprises me, Brian, is they know these numbers, too. And they have still chosen Joe Biden to be their presidential candidate going into 2024. And that shocks me because they know how upset the American people are. They see Biden's horrible performance ratings. And so it really makes me suspect of why they would put Biden up again and then shut down all of any types of presidential debates for other Democrat candidates like Bobby Kennedy and like other Democrat candidates that are bravely running against the Biden regime.
I've told you this before. I think it's going to be Gavin Newsom still. I know that's a long shot, and people at home might be looking at me and going, there's no way. But to your point, I'm not sure President Biden can go health-wise any longer. And what does that 2024 campaign look like for Joe Biden? What does his daily activities look like trying to run the country and run for a re-election? I don't think it happens, and I think someone else is the nominee. I think it's Gavin Newsom, but it could be someone else. I like Kennedy, obviously. I think Robert Kennedy Jr. Is a great challenge to Joe Biden, and I'd like to see those. I'd like to see those debates, to be honest with you.
Oh, I would love to see those debates. It's a clear difference of type of Democrat candidate for Democrat voters. I think so. Now, you brought up a name that I'm glad you're here today.
It's a nice transition to this next block, for sure.
Yes, so Gavin Newsom attacked me today. Or actually yesterday, I'm sorry. Gavin Newsom attacked me on Twitter, and I was shocked to find out that he would step into that. But the reason why I'm glad you're here is the Democrat One of my colleagues, actually, that I wanted to talk about in this last block on today's show is Jamal Bowman. He's a congressman from New York. And the reason why Brian is a good person to have on the show here is because you have been a witness to his behavior twice now towards me. And I'd like to go ahead and show you guys a clip of what happened on Wednesday on the Capitol steps. And I just want to preface for all of you viewers to understand the scene that was developing there. There was a big press conference with George Santos. And I had called out to a couple of the members of the press, hey, you guys, why aren't you asking Joe Biden these same questions that you have all surrounded George Santos with? Because no one seems to be asking Joe Biden about the alleged crimes that his family has been involved in and that he himself is very likely to be involved in based on a whistleblower that we've had come forward to us on the Oversight Committee. Well, once that happened, Jamal Bowman was yelling at me, raising his voice. He's got pretty aggressive physical manner, and you guys can check out the video right here.
Come on now, save the party, save America, save the children, do something about guns. Come on, invest in education. The border is what Trump left it. What are we talking about?
Where are the migrant
what
children?
kids?
You guys
We're accepting them. We love them. We love the migrant children. We lost them.
You can't find them.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah, migrant children missing. You don't
No,
know
no, we don't know the news. I don't know. That's Fox News. That's Fox News. Listen, I need you to save the party. Save the party.
Now, that's amazing. And you set that up perfectly because you came down after the media was going all after Santos, and that's typically what happens when he walks down the Capitol steps. That's just a normal day in that gentleman's life. But I heard people criticizing you for not having a debate, and there was no debate there. That was clearly him shouting at you, and of course you were, you were clapping back to him with facts about it's not about the party, it's about the country, and you were just basically talking about the border and close the border and where's the children. Which, by the way, he had no clue about what you were talking about. The children had no clue. So that is one example, but there's another example because Gavin Newsom clapped back at you.
Yeah, so Gavin Newsom yesterday tweeted out a video from my press conference yesterday morning where I was announcing articles of impeachment on Alejandro Mayorkas and Joe Biden. And you can see Gavin Newsom's tweet right here where he's I don't even know what he's accusing me of, but it's pretty horrifying and shocking. So take a look at the video that he tweeted out. I had to have so much security. There was not enough. I was swarmed. It's all on video. Everyone can see this. But I will tell you what's on video is Jamal Bowman shouting at the top of his lungs, cursing, calling me a calling me a white supremacist, which I take great offense to. That is like calling a person of color the N-word, which should never happen. Calling me a white supremacist is equal to that, and that is wrong. Jamal Bowman was down there cursing at me, telling me to get the F out of there, and he was leading the mob right outside the vehicle I was sitting in. We have this all on video. And then on the Capitol steps yesterday, he was the one that approached me. Even CNN reported that. Yelling, shouting, raising his voice. He has aggressive, his physical mannerisms are aggressive. And he just recently shoved Thomas Massey just outside the House chamber. I think there's a lot of concern about Jamal Bowman. So, and I am concerned about it. I feel threatened by him. He not only led a mob there, but his boisterous lies. And I'll tell you another thing he said outside there. He was saying, save your party. I kept telling him, no, save the country. It's not about political parties. We shouldn't care about political parties. We should care about the country, because no matter what our political beliefs are, Jamal Bowman, I don't know what his political beliefs are. I know what mine are, but we both swore an oath to serve the country here in Congress as representatives. So I am very concerned about Jamal Bowman, and he's someone that people should watch.
That is something else. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, we all need to recognize the death and murder of Emmett Till is horrifying. And everyone is outraged at such a horrible way and manner that this man was killed, and that was awful. And I'm absolutely shocked. I'm insulted. I'm disgusted that the governor of California would project that type of racism and that type of murder on me. I can't even comprehend what he's trying to do there. Obviously, he's trying to bring more violence against me that I've got plenty. Thanks, Gavin. I have plenty of
He's race baiting is what he's doing. He's trying to make this a
Absolutely.
black-white thing. And all she was saying was his bully tactics, his boisterous, his physical mannerisms has nothing to do with his skin color. And that's just, but this is a page out of the leftist playbook. This is what they do.
We need to remind everyone, Brian, that just recently Jamal Bowman got into a heated exchange in the halls of Congress, just outside the House chamber within the Capitol, where he shoved Thomas Massey, one of my colleagues. So Mr. Bowman already has a record of physical aggression towards other Republicans, and it was clearly on display on the Capitol steps. But thankfully, I think you have a video because you were a witness to what happened in New York. Remember, we went to New York using our First Amendment rights, our freedom of speech, to protest the unconstitutional arrest. Talk about weaponization of government. Let's talk, Alvin Bragg weaponizing his DA's office there in New York to target President Trump for made-up charges, absolutely false. And we went there. You were there for Right Side working. There was more press there than any event I've ever seen in my life. But you know who was there? Jamal Bowman. And he was part of the mob, and I'll let you describe it.
Whenever you transition from where the press conference took place over to your white SUV, you got in it, you had people around you, which, by the way, the NYPD did a horrible job as far as securing your vehicle where you could at least safely get in your vehicle. That we did have a few security officers from NYPD that were very cooperative.
Yeah,
but,
they were great.
So I'll give them a shout out.
We could have used more, though.
We could have used way more.
Yeah.
And the media was surrounding the vehicle that you got in. And so when you drove off, all of a sudden, I hear this guy say, "Get the hell out of here, MTG. You're not wanted here in New York," and just went on. And I even know who this guy was. He had a black hoodie on. He wasn't dressed in a suit or anything like that. And then he has to introduce himself to the crowd. "I'm Jamal, and this is who I'm from. This is where I live, and I'm a U.S. congressman." So that's when, our guy stayed on that to see what he had to say. And let me tell you something. He was saying that we don't want this white supremacy rhetoric here in New York. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're saying that you don't want this white supremacy rhetoric here in New York, are you basically saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a white supremacist? Based on what? Based on the fact that she wants to go to New York and exercise her freedom of speech and hold a press conference in an area that she got a permit to do it and have the media come and to defend the president who was arrested on fraudulent charges? But that makes her a white supremacist. See, what Jamal did there was really energize the mob. And that's what it was, Marjorie, a mob in New York to get them all fired up. I would love to play that video, and maybe I'll put it out, but it's got all kinds of F-bombs in it. I'm not saying they came from him, but the mob around him, and he was the leader of it, getting everybody fired up about sending you out of town. And let me tell you something, that is not what someone does in Congress.
No, that's not the behavior of Congress, but that's the behavior that we've seen from many elected Democrat leaders. Never forget Maxine Waters in Minnesota, bringing in the heat. She was bringing in there, trying to cause a violent riot again there in Minnesota. She's called for when you see them, you make a crowd, you surround them. Those are the marching orders that people like Maxine Waters gives, and Jamal Bowman is doing the same thing. And I want to say this, I've already said it once. When people accuse a white person of white supremacy baselessly, and that is a baseless accusation against me. It's wrong, it's hurtful, it's insulting, and it's just like a black person being called the N-word. And I think that is wrong and hurtful and disgusting. And so I will not tolerate being called that. And I thank you for calling it out for exactly what it was. And I would like to release that video that you have, because everyone deserves to get to see exactly how Jamal Bowman conducts himself when he is leading the mob and trying to run me out of town, for coming there to defend my president and say that the weaponized government should end. And it's wrong what is happening there. That doesn't have to do anything with skin color. That has to do with abuse of power.
Well, and I'd like to end this segment on this note. I travel with you a lot. So we travel around the country. I see what the interaction is in airports. I see what it is on the street, even going from your office to the Capitol, or just really anywhere here in America. And you get basically two sides of someone who comes up to you. You get the people who praise you. They love what you're doing for this country. They always say, keep fighting. We're praying for you.
Oh, and we love them.
And we love that, right? But the other people you get are the ones that are inspired by the Maxine Waters. They want to get in your face. They want to physically, threaten you, in a way, intimidate you. They want to hurl all kinds of obscenities to you, and that's their right to do that. But let me tell you, they are just a product of what the left is telling them to do. And we condone, and we've said this before, we don't want any conservatives, Republicans to do that to anybody on the left, any Democrat. Wrong. We condone that type of behavior.
We do not condone. Yeah, we don't.
Yes, we do not want that type of behavior at all. That's not who we are, in the words of Barack Hussein Obama. And so I'd like to say that it is very difficult for you to live, quote, a normal life based in the whole environment that they have created around you.
Well, it's wrong, and we do condemn it. We condemn that type of behavior towards any elected official. That's absolutely wrong. But the American people have their freedom of speech. You have your right to reach out to your representatives, your senators, anyone you elect, local, county, state, federal level, and let your voice be heard. And I encourage you to do that. But I also encourage there to be a level of respect when you do it. I feel disrespected by Jamal Bowman. I feel disrespected by Gavin Newsom. And I want to thank Rick Grinnell for calling Gavin Newsom out. I also saw that on Twitter yesterday. That's what brave men do. They hold other men in check when they're abusing power. But anyways, I want to thank you guys so much. Thanks for
this was
me,
fun.
Brian. You got to be a regular guest on here at Battleground MTG, and we'll be back next time with another episode.